There is a strange moment that happens when a pet enters your life. At first, you think you are simply bringing an animal into your home. A dog, a cat, a tiny creature with paws, eyes, hunger, habits, and needs. You think you are making space for a food bowl, a bed, a leash, a litter box, a few toys scattered across the floor, but slowly, something else begins to happen. Your routines change. Your attention changes. Your emotional weather changes. A silent house starts answering back. An ordinary room begins to feel witnessed. A difficult day does not end in emptiness because something is waiting for you at the door, on the couch, by the window, or curled in the corner like a small heartbeat outside your chest. And before you fully understand it, this animal is no longer just living near you. It is living with you, inside your schedule, inside your memories, inside the quietest places of your mind. It begins to shape the way you return home, the way you speak when no one is listening, the way you notice small movements in a room. And the deeper question is not simply why we love pets. The deeper question is why being loved by something so simple can change us so much. Number 1. Why do we welcome pets into our lives when we already know they will complicate everything? A pet does not make life easier in the practical sense. It asks for time when you are tired. It needs attention when you are busy. It leaves fur on clothes you just cleaned. It knocks things over. It wakes you too early. It turns simple plans into negotiations with feeding schedules, walks, vet visits, and tiny emergencies that somehow always happen at the worst possible moment. And yet millions of people still open the door. Someone who once enjoyed a perfectly quiet apartment suddenly finds themselves buying squeaky toys. Someone who thought they were too independent begins speaking in a softer voice to a creature that cannot answer in words. Someone who believed their life was already full discovers there was room for one more living presence. Psychologically, this reveals something important. Human beings are not designed only for comfort. We are designed for connection. We do not welcome pets because they make life efficient. We welcome them because they make life feel inhabited. A pet turns care into something daily and visible. You pour food into a bowl, and a life responds. You come home, and a life notices. You sit alone, and a life chooses to sit near you. That may seem ordinary, but to the human mind, it is profound. Many people are not lonely because no one exists around them. They are lonely because nothing around them seems to need their presence in a tender way. Pets change that. They give us a reason to step outside ourselves without demanding that we become someone impressive. They create a quiet agreement between two lives. You provide safety, they provide presence, and sometimes that exchange is enough to make a person feel less invisible in the world. This is where the bond begins, not in grand emotions, but in small repetitions: feeding, calling, waiting, touching, returning. And once a pet becomes part of your rhythm, you begin to notice something even stranger. This creature seems to understand parts of you that people sometimes miss. Number 2. There is something mysterious about the way a pet can sense your mood before you explain it. You may walk through the door pretending the day was fine. You put your keys down. You check your phone. You tell yourself you are okay. Nothing dramatic happened. No visible disaster. Just another long day with something heavy behind your eyes. Then your pet approaches differently. Not with wild excitement. Not with demand. But with quiet closeness. A dog rests its head on your knee. A cat appears beside you without being called. A small animal becomes still, as if the room has changed temperature. You have said nothing, but something has been understood. Pets do not understand human language like we do, but they are attentive to tone, rhythm, movement, breathing, and routine. They notice relaxed and stressed footsteps. They notice when your voice becomes flat. They notice when you move more slowly than usual. They notice when you stop doing the things you normally do. In human relationships, we often hide behind explanations. We say, "I'm fine," because we do not want to open the whole drawer of feelings. We smile because the timing is inconvenient. We change the subject because vulnerability feels too expensive. But pets do not ask for a polished story. They respond to the nervous system beneath the performance. That is why their presence can feel more honest than conversation. A pet does not need you to explain your sadness correctly before offering comfort. It does not ask whether your feelings are reasonable. It does not interrupt with advice. It does not try to win the moment with a better opinion. It simply senses that something in you has shifted, and it moves closer. That kind of wordless understanding can soften a person, because many of us are tired of translating pain into language before we are allowed to receive care. A pet reminds us that being understood is not always about being analyzed. Sometimes it is being felt. And this kind of understanding can reach a person who has become exhausted from explaining themselves. It bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the body. A warm head against your leg can sometimes say what 1,000 sentences cannot. You are not alone here. And when that presence repeats day after day, the place where it happens begins to change too. Number 3. A house becomes home when something alive is waiting inside it. Before a pet, a room may be beautiful, organized, peaceful, but it can still feel strangely neutral. The couch is just a couch. The hallway is just a hallway. The silence is just silence. You come and go, and the space remains almost indifferent to your existence. Then a pet arrives, and the emotional architecture of the home quietly rearranges itself. The sunny patch near the window becomes their favorite place. The corner of the sofa becomes their kingdom. The sound of paws on the floor becomes part of the evening. A blanket is no longer just a blanket because it carries the shape of a body that trusts you enough to sleep there. This is not decoration. This is attachment. The mind forms emotional maps of places through repeated experiences. A home is not created only by walls, furniture, or ownership. It is created by memories that tell the nervous system, something here belongs with me. Pets become anchors inside those memories. They attach emotion to ordinary objects. A leash by the door means morning movement. A food bowl means responsibility. A toy under the bed means there is life here. A scratch on a chair becomes less of a flaw and more of a signature. Even the small inconveniences begin to carry meaning. The water spilled near the bowl, the fur on the blanket, the toys that somehow migrate across the floor. These little interruptions become proof that the space is not sterile. It is alive. This is why a home with a pet often feels less empty even when no human is speaking. The space carries traces of relationship. A pet gives the house a pulse. And perhaps this is why losing a pet can make the same home feel suddenly unfamiliar. The rooms remain, but the emotional signals have disappeared. The mind keeps expecting sound, movement, presence. But while the pet is there, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling like the only living witness inside your own life. You are not just occupying space. You are sharing it. And once a place becomes safe enough to share, another part of you begins to relax. Because with a pet, home is not only where you live, it becomes one of the few places where you do not have to perform. Number 4. A pet may be the only audience that never asks for impressive. Around people, most of us are performing more than we admit. We manage our tone. We choose our words. We adjust our face. We try to appear competent at work, interesting with friends, calm in conflict, and strong when we are breaking. Even when we are loved, we can still feel the pressure to be understandable. But your pet does not care about your status. It does not care whether your career is moving fast enough. It does not care how productive you were today. It does not compare you to anyone. It does not ask why you are not further along by now. You can be tired, messu, quiet, unmotivated, unsure. You can cry on the floor, eat cereal at midnight, or talk nonsense in a voice you would never use around another adult. And your pet remains there. Not because you are impressive, because you are familiar. This has a psychological effect. The human mind needs spaces where identity can loosen. If every relationship requires presentation, the self becomes a costume. Pets offer a rare kind of social rest. Their presence allows you to exist without editing yourself. This does not mean they replace human relationships, but they offer something many relationships forget how to give: uncomplicated acceptance. A pet does not love your resume. It loves your return. It learns your scent, your steps, your timing, your voice. To them, you are not a brand, a role, or a performance. You are the person who comes back. That simplicity can be healing. Adult life trains people to believe they are valued only when they are useful, successful, attractive, or emotionally convenient. A pet quietly challenges that belief. It tells you, through repeated presence, that being enough may not be something you earn. Maybe it is something revealed when nothing is being demanded of you. And for many people, this is the first place they truly exhale. Not because life is fixed, not because all pain has disappeared, but because one living creature is not asking them to prove why they deserve closeness. And from that kind of acceptance, something begins to grow. You start becoming a slightly different person. Number 5. Living with a pet slowly changes your character in ways too small to notice and too important to ignore. At first, you may think you are training the pet. You teach it where to sleep, when to eat, what not to chew, what not to scratch, how to wait, how to come when called. But over time, the pet is also training you. It teaches you to think beyond your own mood. You may not feel like getting up, but the dog needs to walk. You may be distracted, but the cat needs food. You may be irritated, But a frightened animal needs patience more than volume. You may be rushing, but a living creature cannot always move at your speed. This is one of the quiet moral effects of caring for a pet. It turns love into behavior, not just emotion, not just affection, not just cute photos and warm feelings. Behavior, showing up, cleaning up, noticing patterns, remembering needs, regulating your frustration. Psychologically, this builds responsibility through attachment rather than pressure. Many responsibilities feel heavy because they come from obligation, fear, or expectation. But caring for a pet often feels different because the responsibility is tied to affection. You do not only have to care, you want to care. That distinction matters. A pet can make a person gentler without making them weaker, more consistent without making them rigid. You learn that another life depends on small acts you could easily overlook. Fresh water, a calm voice, a routine, a familiar touch, a door opened at the right time, a moment of patience when your own mind is loud. Slowly, your identity begins to absorb these actions. You become someone who notices, someone who protects, someone who returns, someone who can be counted on by a creature with no strategy, only trust. That is a serious thing. To be trusted by something vulnerable is to meet a better version of yourself before you fully become it. And once you discover that version, you begin to understand why pets do more than make us happy. They make us feel safe. Number 6. Pets make us feel emotionally safe because they offer connection without the threat of judgment. Many people move through life with invisible defenses. They are careful about what they reveal. They measure need. They wonder whether their sadness will burden someone. They wonder whether their anger will be misunderstood. They wonder whether their silence will be punished. Human connection can be beautiful, but risky. A sentence can be misread. A confession can be mishandled. A need can become an argument. A weakness can become a weapon. So people learn to guard themselves. Then they come home, and their pet is there. No interrogation. No emotional scorekeeping. No hidden agenda. No memory of the wrong sentence you said 3 weeks ago. No demand for you to justify your tired nervous system. Just presence. This is why petting an animal feels grounding. The rhythm of touch slows attention. Warmth brings the mind back. Breathing beside you tells the body, this moment is not dangerous. Pets do not solve our problems, but they often help the body feel safe enough to stop bracing. And safety is not a small thing. A mind that does not feel safe cannot reflect clearly. It reacts. It scans. It prepares. It protects. But when safety enters, even quietly, the mind opens. You can feel sadness without drowning. You can rest without guilt. You can be alone without feeling abandoned. This is one reason people talk to their pets. Not because they expect a logical answer, because speaking in the presence of non-judgment can organize the chaos inside. You can say things badly. You can repeat yourself. You can admit what you are afraid to admit around people. And nothing in the room turns against you. A pet becomes a soft witness, not a therapist, not a solution, not a replacement for human love, but a steady reminder that connection does not always have to be complicated. For someone who has spent years expecting emotional closeness to come with conditions, this can feel almost unbelievable. A creature simply stays. And sometimes staying is the language the nervous system understands best. Perhaps this is why the thought of losing them feels unbearable. When a pet becomes part of your emotional safety, saying goodbye is not just losing an animal. It is losing a place where your heart used to rest. Number 7. Saying goodbye to a pet hurts so much because the bond was never small. People who have never loved an animal may not understand the grief. They may say, it was just a pet. But that sentence misunderstands the relationship. A pet is not loved as an object. A pet is loved as a daily presence. It is there in the ordinary moments that do not look important from the outside. The morning routine, the sound at the door, the face looking up when food is prepared, the quiet company during a difficult night, the habits that become invisible until they are gone. Grief often attaches itself to repetition. We do not only miss the dramatic moments, we miss what used to happen every day. You wake up and no one is waiting. You come home and no one hears the key. You look at the corner where the bed used to be. You listen for a sound that will not return. This is why pet loss can feel disorienting. The mind has built thousands of expectations around that presence. Then the world fails to complete the pattern. There is also a deeper pain. Pets often know versions of us that few people see. They were there when we were lonely, when we were changing, when we were healing, when we were falling apart quietly, when we were becoming someone we could not yet explain to anyone else. So when they leave, it can feel as if part of our private history leaves with them. This grief is not childish. It is attachment. The pain is large because the relationship entered places language cannot easily reach. But grief also reveals value. To mourn a pet is to admit that a small life marked your mind. It means your heart was awake enough to be changed by something fragile. It means you allowed yourself to love a life that could not promise forever. That is not weakness. That is courage in its quietest form. Maybe this is the painful beauty of loving animals. They do not stay forever. But while they are here, they teach how deeply the heart attaches to presence, not perfection. And that lesson leads to the final truth. What your pet teaches you about being human may be more important than anything you teach them. Number 8. Your pet secretly teaches you that being human is not only about thinking or achieving, it is also about noticing. A pet lives close to existence. Sunlight on the floor, a sound outside, the smell of rain, the comfort of routine, the joy of movement, the relief of trust. They do not treat ordinary life as something to escape. They enter it. A dog does not need a philosophical reason to enjoy a walk. A cat does not apologize for resting in the warmest place in the room. A bird does not turn its song into a productivity system. A rabbit does not measure the value of stillness before accepting it. Animals remind us of a kind of intelligence that modern life often forgets. Embodied intelligence. The wisdom of being here. Humans are remarkable because we can imagine the future, remember the past, build meaning, and ask questions. But those same powers can also trap us. We live in timelines that do not exist yet. We replay conversations that already ended. We turn ourselves into projects. We measure our worth through outcomes. We forget the body. We forget the room. We forget the simple fact of being alive. A pet pulls us back, not through argument, through presence. Eat, rest, move, notice, trust, return. Love the familiar. Do not make every moment a performance. This may be the deepest lesson pets offer. They show us that love does not need complexity to be real. Sometimes love is a creature choosing the same spot near you again and again. Sometimes it is a tail moving when you enter the room. Sometimes it is a quiet body sleeping beside you with total trust. To live with a pet is to be reminded that the mind is not healed only by ideas. Sometimes it is healed by rhythm, by touch, by routine, by loyalty, by being needed, by being accepted, by sharing space with a life that asks for little and gives something strangely enormous. And perhaps that is why pets change us. They bring us back to the oldest parts of being human. Care, attachment, presence, loss, gratitude, love without language. In a world that constantly tells us to become more, pets remind us to become more present, more patient, more gentle, more capable of noticing the life right in front of us before it becomes a memory. Maybe that is the quiet gift hidden inside living with a pet. They do not simply enter our homes. They return us to ourselves. If this video made you think about a pet you love, or a pet you still miss, take a moment to leave their name in the comments. Sometimes a name is a small way of saying, you mattered, you were here, you changed me. And if this reflection helped you see the quiet psychology behind living with animals, like this video, subscribe to Art of Thinking, and share it with someone whose pet has become part of their heart. And in the next video, we're going even deeper into the secret language of dogs. Because sometimes, the way your dog looks at you is not random. It may be trust, it may be attachment, it may be love, or it may be the quiet moment when your dog has already chosen you. So if you've ever wondered why your dog stares at you in a certain way, don't miss the next video. If your dog looks at you like this, they have chosen you.